Husband support during pregnancy. Our favorite midwife, Ruby, sat with Kafuide, advising all our good gentlemen out there how they can provide that crucial support for their wives and their partners where they are at that crucial stage of bringing life into this world. Catch a repeat of all that on our Facebook channel, GTV Ghana everywhere. You can also watch the news and sports and everything we've done so far, including the headlines on that channel, GTV Ghana everywhere. On Facebook, we're on Twitter, Instagram. We are on Threads as well. So join the train, don't be left behind. 1 million by December. We are still on course. And we are announcing some new TV Essence ambassadors. All the details on our online networks. So go over there and see who the ambassadors are. More will be announced in the coming days. And this is a special message from GTV Ghana admin. For this segment, we are talking about tourism and the potentials in Ghana. We are told they are numerous, and if adequately explored, it could be the game changer in the socioeconomic development of our country. It's projected that everything being equal, about $4 billion is expected to be accrued from the tourism sector by 2024. Recently, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, inaugurated the redeveloped Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park in Accra and hinted of similar redevelopment and building of other heritage sites in the country, like the construction of a museum and Heroes Park for the Big Six, the Bon Craft Village, and many more. With just the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park facelift, we are told that we should expect some 1 million tourists annually from the previous figure of 90,000 tourists, with the accompanying monetary windfalls. So, for the projection of the tourism sector hitting $4 billion by 2024, is it time to turn our attention to developing our industry for rapid socioeconomic growth? I would say yes. But what are your thoughts? 055-55-61034 is our WhatsApp number. This morning on The Breakfast Show, we'll find out from our guest, and we've invited Professor Gabriel Leshen, who is the technical advisor, Ghana Tourism Development Project, to help us talk about how we can use tourism more effectively than ever before in our quest for economic freedom. Professor Leshen, thank you for making the time.
Thank you, too.
Ghana is a favorite tourism destination for many people, especially during the year of return, more especially beyond the return. Until COVID hit, the numbers were just rising and rising and rising. So it baffles some why there are still challenges. What have we done with tourism? What has tourism brought us so far? Perhaps we can establish a basis, and then we can talk about the other things that affect the sector. What have we done with our tourism so far?
Thank you very much, and hello to everybody listening. I bring you warm greetings from the Sector Minister, Dr. Awal, and my project coordinator, Nana Sapukantanka. The unwavering commitment of government to move away from the productivist paradigm, which has got to do with what is in the soil and what is on top of it, to the post-productivist paradigm, which has got to do with what comes from the human mind and the soul, is actually what encompasses the vision of government to position tourism as the #1 contributor to our GDP. I have said earlier that this will be a mirage unless we're able to harness what we have in a way that it gives us sustainable competitive edge. And that is something that we are not going to have one person performing this task. It got to be a concerted effort from all the stakeholders in the industry, our partners from the financial institutions, and even at the individual level, because I can tell you for a fact, change is an act of individual elevation. And when we have all this constellation coming together, then we can look at tourism as the piers there is a storm towards our socio-economic transformation.
What are the numbers telling us about where we are as a tourism destination? How are we faring?
The year of return really made 2019 a grand year for us. We had about 1.3 million, visitors coming in. Stellar. Then, of course, we had a glitch with the COVID. But even with the COVID, 2020 and 2021, where we have above 600,000. Now, just last year, we almost 1 million. That gave us almost $2.5 billion US. So you can tell that the vision and the commitment of the sector minister is to ensure that by come 2025, we are able to generate $5 billion US, which will make tourism become the #1 contributor to our GDP. This is not just building castles in the air. We have shown through the Ghana Tourism Development Project that for this to happen, we need to be able to create the right enabling environment for the industry. We need to be able to give the requisite training to the stakeholders, the various dimensions of it. We need to be able to develop the public side and the private side as well, as demonstrated through the GDP, where we give assistance to the private sector through the grant, yada, yada. And the last one is build even the human capital, because appropriate human resource is really the thing that gives every country that competitive edge in this industry where the human factor is prime.
We need to, but are we?
Yes. You know, they say that wonsum wanyimpa. In other words, if this is going to happen, then all of us have to come together. In the industry, when you look at the human resource that we have and all that, we just had training, for example, for the sector, where even taxi drivers, car rentals, and everybody, because these are people who are in the moment of truth, the frontline people. If they're able to sell Ghana appropriately, then the visitors to the country are going to visit some of these sites. Remember also that it is important that we also have a kind of school for tourism. Already UCC, KNUST, you name it. We have all the technical universities having some, some courses on tourism and hospitality, of course, with art and culture being part of it. What do we need to be able to do to revamp, and give all the assistance that we can to all these institutions, which we have done. Just about 2 months ago, we were able to give some equipment to the four selected, technical universities in the country, the Kumasi Technical University, Tamale, Cape Coast Technical University, and Accra Technical University, so that they're able to really bring, industry into classroom and classroom into industry, because that has been the lacuna, the gap, the kink in the pipe, where we are trying to get people to move beyond the theory to the practices. And like I said, so gradually, with all the efforts that we are putting together, we are sure that the synergistic output of this will be momentous. And when it is, then we know that we are walking the mantra. And the mantra is tourism becoming the #1 contributor to our GDP, Ghana becoming the most preferred tourism destination in Africa, and Ghana being the center of the world.
It's people first, and for credibility on people, we've never been wanting. Worldwide, we are known as a hospitable people, but we also need to be known as hospitable professionals when it comes to tourism. I'm excited about the training that you said you've offered to drivers, because it's the people really that will man these sites. What are the efforts being put into monitoring travel and tour companies, for example? Because most times they are at the forefront. These days, a lot of business is online, booking.com, travel.com, travel blogs. Who's monitoring these sites to ensure that the information that is on there, the people who are working on these things, are competently qualified?
Good. When you look at tourism, and especially under the Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture, we have about 14 agencies, cutting from the Ghana Tourism Authority, the NFA, NCC, all of them, the Ghana Tourism Development Company, all of them, the 14, the Ghana Language, Bureau of Languages, everybody is connected with it. So it's a big patchdom, okay, where everybody is playing their part. For example, when it comes to NFA, in order to really make a globalized effort and localized effort as well, the ministry has been organizing training across the country. We were just in Tamale about a month ago. We had one in Kumasi as well.
For which categories of?
NFA, the National Film Authority. Those who are into, we can call Kumawood, whatever name you want to give to it. But you remember, in Nigeria, for example, the film industry alone gave them $660 million US in 2021. That is huge. Globally, the film industry, entertainment, media contribute to 2.3 trillion USD. These are things that we can look at just even for the film and see how we can take a slice out of it. But like you said, we need to be able to develop the capacity so we can have all the hard infrastructure, because anytime you talk about tourism, it moves beyond the quintessential marketing rubric of the 4 Ps to the 3 Ps, where we have the personnel, the process, and the physical ambience. Now we are making some rules with the physical ambience. The onus is on us for us to be able to develop the outsters, the PEL, people showing professionalism, excellence, attitudinal responsiveness, and the leadership that is supposed to really get people and such or mesmerize, hypnotize in a way for them to come to Ghana over and over and over again.
And I maintain that it starts with the people, because the people develop policies that translate into what is acted out on the field. If they are not competent to handle, for example, visa requests that come in, and then processes are not put in place to make sure that that even happens. We are talking about the AFCFTA creating opportunities for businesses, and tourism is a big business. It's $4 billion we are hoping to find. Let's start with policies for some of these movements. In other countries, they've made visa processes even better, so that the bottlenecks that used to be in place are no longer there for certain categories of travelers. Have we made have we put those things in place? If we are thinking, for example, the Kwame Nkrumah Park, we want to send more business that way. A friend was suggesting to me earlier today, have we put systems in place which would make it conducive for more visitors to go to the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Center? Are we in talks with hotels to offer these places as part of their tour packages? Are we in talks with travel and tours companies who will make some of these places a part of the package they offer? Do the tourists get discounts if they visit some of these parks because of these policies that have been, because of these arrangements that have been put in place? I'm speaking a lot, but do you get the picture I'm trying to paint? So if you stay at Hotel A and you're working with travel and tours company B and you visit tourist site C, you'll get 10% on your next order or on your next, movie experience at theater experience at the National Theatre. Those are the kind of collaborations I'm talking. Is that even a conversation that's happening?
Yeah, when you look at tourism actually is Siamese to hospitality. The two are twins. So it is always important for us to look at the accommodation sector, the restaurant, and all the other components that add to what it is for tourism to happen. If you go to a place, you will need to have a meal. You need to sleep. You need to shop and all that. So it's the job of the ministry to work with GATOF, the Ghana Tourism Federation, work with TOGA, the Ghana Tour Operators Association, work with the Ghana Hotel Association, and any other association or partnership that we can find, so that at the end of the day, what we are doing, like I hinted earlier, is not a solo effort. Because we have realized time and again that if you take a step to the mountaintop and you shout to the valley that people should come, they may not have the institutional memory and the enthusiasm that will cause them to actually come to the top where we are. We don't want to do a top-down approach. We are trying to have a hybrid kind of development where everybody is plugged in one way or the other. Yes, there are still more to do in terms of the collaboration with all these partners that we want to seek. But I can tell you for a fact, we have been doing our best to ensure that they are plugged in one way or the other.
So let's talk about what you've been doing. I've been trying to get a sense of that for a few questions now. For example, there's an agenda to grow the number of tourists to 1 million. What's the plan to make it happen? Are we just hoping that people will see the video or the pictures of the park and say, oh, that looks like a nice place, I want to go? What's the plan to get 1 million tourists into Ghana?
To Ghana in general, not Kwame Nkrumah. Yes, in terms of, if you look at it, tourism.
Unless you want 1 million tourists to Kwame Nkrumah Park.
Yeah, we want that one as well.
Okay, so what's the plan?
Yes. So let me take the bigger picture, then I'll come to Kwame Nkrumah. When it comes to tourism, it is underpinned by business management. If not, then we don't have sustainability. And like I said, how do we make sure that we have these international arrivals, getting to the numbers that we want? If you go on promotion, we are doing advert on CNN so that we are able to target especially the Africans in the diaspora. You know that Ghana has 75% of all the slave edifices. 75%. And the oldest slave edifice here is here at Elmina, 1482. Okay? We have 75% of it. When it comes to Pan-Africanism, Ghana is the stuff. We are the market leader. How do we ensure that we even build on this leadership that we have? Because as you know, if you have a market share, people are going to fight you for it. We were not the #1 country in terms of tourism before 2019, but now we are #1 in West Africa, according to the World Tourism Forum. What happened? Because we built upon what happened in 2019 with the year of return. And although COVID came with it a separate trying grip on the industry, yet even within that pang and that pain and all that, we were able to stay focused, giving grant where we have to be, so that those stakeholders, especially in the hospitality and tourism, that are suffering, art and culture as well, that are suffering, can have a semblance of formidable leg so that they don't collapse. Okay? We did that. And I can tell you for a fact, that might have been the spirit that causes for us to leapfrog and become the leader of the chain. And to me, we need to continue with promotion, but then COVID has taught us that it's not only about international travel. We need to be able to do domestic tourism as well. And for example, with our stakeholders, the GTA, we are embarking on domestic tourism campaigns. Because why? There are people in this country that don't know even some of the few landmarks around their area.
I mean, KNMP is an example. The Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park is an example. But like everywhere else in the world, the natives do not visit the close-by sites. If you go to London, there are many people walking the streets who have never been to Buckingham Palace. There may be more visitors in Buckingham Palace than actual people who live within the immediate or, greater London community. It's the same in this part of the world. KNMP is going to open to the public today. What are the charges, for example? How does the Ghanaian know they can afford it? If a Ghanaian wants to stay at a resort anywhere, they read the cost implications. The costs are usually charged in dollars and converted into cedis because the local currency is still not on the digital channels when it comes to quoting prices in most of the instances. So we are thinking about all these. So when you talk about improving domestic tourism, what's in it for the Ghanaian? Why would the Ghanaian be incentivized to move from home and pay dollars to stay at a place in their own country?
Good. When it comes to tourism, it goes beyond the pecuniary benefits. That's one thing people have to get. It's not always about the money. It's about how you reach your own somebody-ness as African. Appreciating everything from your toe to your head, your soul, your intellectuality, your spirituality, what it is for you to have an African personality. That is the job of tourism. And that is why at the ministry, if you truncate the art and culture, we're going to come against you right away, because we know for a fact that these three must work in pari passu. So the job of domestic tourism is to let people get to know that here is home and we have something stellar about us that goes beyond our biological features to our environment. Because remember, we have always been brought up to appreciate nature. As I say, we have always been, the kind of people that had utmost respect even for cutting trees. In other words, things done before you could actually cut trees. What has happened to that strategic essentialism as really, espoused by Jacques Spivak? What is happening to our psyche? And we need to be able, in UK, they can decide not to go and watch their, London Bridge. It's got nothing to this. We, as a ministry, our vision is to to make sure that every Ghanaian at least take a holiday, if not at all, in their environment, for them to get to know their, themselves. If you are in Cape Coast, I remember when I was in St. Augustine's, we go to the castle, and we go in there with the Holy Child ladies and all that. And we're there, and you see them telling you about the castle and what it was about. Castle schools, the slaves, and all that. Perhaps that awakened my consciousness up to today, where I see it for a fact that we must become voice to our own souls. If not, somebody will continue to create images for us that will not only be in our side, but even translate into our GDP.
Beyond the slavery stories, and we have to wrap this up very quickly so that we allow, beyond the slavery sites, which tend to get much of the focus, the other tourist sites appear, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, appear not to get the focus that it deserves. There's a hippopotamus sanctuary at Wichau. There's the Mole National Park. We know the big names that are always on the map. What about these little places that are being developed, that have been discovered, that also need help to shine? The roads leading to have these tourist sites are nothing to write home about. So what's the focus beyond let's go and watch the slave ports and forts and castles? That's all right. But somebody would not be interested in that. They want something else. What are the efforts to bring other things up?
Yes, according to the Ghana Tourism Development Project, the project objective is to increase tourism performance across targeted destinations in the country. There's something called Growth Pool. If you want to do something, you just don't go and spread the seed everywhere. You create a pool where it attracts others. That is the enclave, the cluster mindset behind our development. If you're able to, for example, you mentioned Mole, which is part of the development under this project. Wichau has received some form of funds to develop it. It is our job to look at the flagship tourism site and try to bring it to international standards, whilst also being aware by their development, we are able to cause private investment to come into the area. For example, Shire Hills is here, Kakum is here. We talk about Mole, which is bigger than Greater Accra. It is our job under the ministry to be able to look at some of these iconic sites because they have positive ramifications for other sites in the area. If you go to that place, then you may be thinking about going to other places, okay? But you always have to have your eyes on what we call strategy. I
wish we had more time to get into this because elsewhere there is the peak season and then there's the off-peak season. Peak season, they know that they have many international travel, tourists coming in, and so the rates really are set for the expatriates market. Off-peak, there is a domestic effort, and it feeds into driving domestic tourism because they beat the rates down so that the local people can stay there, so that not only, people from the diaspora will come and stay at the big hotel chains, then those around can also have the opportunity to benefit. I wonder if some of those conversations are ongoing and what our peak and off-peak seasons for tourism are in Ghana. But it's a lot to unpack in just a few short minutes. I'll take your final words. Tourism for economic development, are we on track?
Yes. The Gudgersberg structure must be cracked. It's not going to be cracked by the traditional sectors that we have. Tourism calls for first mover advantage. We have first mover advantage in diasporic travel, the convivial nature of us, the proverbial Ghanaian hospitality is something that we are going to sharpen so that at the end of the day, we can make tourism become that cobweb that is able to arrest that lion that we have been, waiting for since independence. It's possible. Like I keep saying, Wunsum, Wanyimpa.
Thank you for making the time for us this morning. Professor Gabriel Leshan is a technical advisor to the Ghana Tourism Development Project, talking to us about tourism for economic development. This is Breakfast live on GTV. We'll take a quick break. When we return, there's more before we